The whole family was waiting for their second daughter to come home, but as soon as she arrived, her mother picked her up and stuffed her into the ventilation duct. The father was also there, helping the mother block the door. The older brother lent a hand as well, using a bicycle to cover it up. After finishing everything, the whole family tried to steady their breathing and quietly opened the door. Outside the door was a group of people in uniform. As soon as they entered the house, they began searching the entire place, even under the floor. The little daughter, frightened by the noise, started to cry. As a result, the father was arrested and sentenced to 8 years in prison because the family had more children than allowed. The reason for such a harsh punishment was that in 1999, the environment was severely polluted. The oxygen levels and air quality on Earth had dropped to extremely low levels. The air could no longer be breathed directly into the lungs. Whenever people went outside, they had to carry a breathing apparatus to prolong the time humans could survive on Earth. The government decided to tighten population control while also searching for another path to survival. After many years of research, they used modern science and technology to invent a time portal that could take people back to the prehistoric era, 85 million years ago. They built a base suitable for human habitation in the prehistoric era, called Terra. 2 years after the father was imprisoned for having more children than allowed, his wife Elizabeth came to visit him. She told her husband that, because she was a doctor of biology, the government had selected her to join the 10th group of people permitted to travel through time to the human settlement in the prehistoric era. According to current law, she could bring her family members with her, but since her husband was serving a prison sentence and their youngest daughter Jo was born in excess of the permitted number of children, the government did not recognize her. Therefore, the two of them were not considered Elizabeth's family members. As a wife and a mother, Elizabeth found this completely unacceptable. So she came up with an idea. During this meeting, she left a gas mask for her husband James, and hidden inside the mask was a tiny gun, capable of easily cutting through the root. Relying on this small weapon, after James successfully escaped from prison, he endured the pain to remove the criminal tracking device from his body and brought the gas mask to the place where the people were gathering to migrate. Thanks to the extraordinary physical strength he had developed at the police station, James clung tightly to the underside of the vehicle to get through the strict checkpoint, and at the same time, he successfully retrieved the weapons and the backpack containing support equipment that his wife had left behind. He successfully reunited with his family in front of the time gate. As the whole family was about to pass through the time gate, a police officer suddenly noticed something unusual about James. Without time to think, James decided to stay behind to buy time, giving his family a chance to cross through. After making sure his loved ones were safe, James immediately took action against the guards. After breaking free from their control, he ran desperately toward the time gate. He successfully traveled to the Cretaceous period, 85 million years ago. The newcomers who had just time-traveled found themselves in a dense primeval forest with extremely high oxygen levels. Before long, they began to experience symptoms of oxygen poisoning. The oxygen that they once desperately wanted in their original world has now become a burden. Everyone had to rely on bottles containing carbon in order to adapt to the new environment. Meanwhile, when James first arrived, all he had was a weapon in his hand, which immediately caused chaos. In this prehistoric era, human laws were of no use at all. Very quickly, the whole family joined the group of migrants heading to Terra. After many years of human effort, a basic human settlement had taken shape. Taylor was the village chief of Terra in prehistoric times. He encouraged everyone to build a new era in the old century. Among the crowd were two people with special skills, James and his wife. They were kept by Taylor to serve as soldiers. He greatly appreciated the couple's talents, especially since, during the process of building human civilization in prehistoric times, there was a severe shortage of skilled professionals like doctors. As for James, the village chief made it clear that he only cared whether his subordinates could contribute to the village or not. He didn't care at all about how population management regulations would work in the future. In the end, Elizabeth was assigned to work at the medical center. Meanwhile, James, along with other villagers, went to work on the farm. There, the manager assigned him the task of clearing weeds. He thought that for someone like him, a former soldier, clearing weeds would be a piece of cake. But when he arrived at the job, he realized the weeds he had to clear were actually vines as thick as a child's arm. Just as James was about to finish his task, a prehistoric centipede crawled along the fence and up his arm. Meanwhile, Elizabeth began her own work. However, all of her patients were quite strange. The first patient needed immediate treatment due to excessively high blood oxygen levels. This patient also introduced Elizabeth to a prehistoric medical device. It was a gigantic insect. Its tooth was used to draw out the excess oxygen from the blood. Elizabeth tried to suppress her fear as she removed this bizarre and slimy medical device. She and her husband struggled through the most challenging first day of work in their lives together. When they got home, they shared with each other the strange things they had encountered at work. The whole family gradually adapted to the lifestyle of prehistoric humans. But not long after, one day, Elizabeth received a patient brought in by soldiers. The patient was an electricity thief from the 6th wave of migrants. Just as Elizabeth was wondering about the man's electricity theft, the man lying on the hospital bed quickly grabbed her and took her hostage. To protect the doctors present, the soldier eventually put down his weapon, allowing the man to escape. James, who was working outside, witnessed the scene. Due to his background as a former police officer, James followed the man until he saw him holding a gun, staring intently at Village Chief Taylor. Sensing danger just a second before the man fired, James rushed forward and tackled the suspect to the ground. From that moment on, James was valued by the village chief and became his personal bodyguard. In the days that followed, James stayed close to Taylor, never leaving his side. Taylor also took him to the mountaintop outside the village so he could see the entire scale of the settlement. As for the man who tried to ambush Taylor, he told James about him and the story behind the 6th wave of migration. These are the Sixers, a group of people who split off on their own after humans established a new era in prehistoric times. Originally, they were part of the 6th migration group and were extremely interested in the security system of the human base. They even frequently caused trouble and stole electricity from the village. But even when Taylor gave the order, members of the 6th migration group were still able to escape before being caught. Taylor suspects that there is a mole from the 6th migration group inside their base. The purpose of their organization is to accomplish certain secrets that Taylor is unaware of. At this moment, James also receives an invitation. While he was deep in thought, Taylor spotted 2 armored vehicles speeding by through his telescope. Their target was the human base. Taylor guessed that the Sixers might be staging a rebellion. To protect the settlement, Taylor and James drove an armored vehicle to intercept them. 3 armored vehicles raced through the forest, but it seemed the Sixers' target was someone else. Heavy weapons fired at James's group from behind. In addition, there were several carnivorous dinosaurs trailing behind them. They were closely following the armored vehicles. Just as the gunman was quietly celebrating after his mine hit the dinosaur's leg, another dinosaur that had been lying in ambush nearby suddenly lunged out and bit him whole. But in this Cretaceous period, no matter how deep the conflict between the Sixers and Terra Nova may be, dinosaurs, especially carnivorous ones, remain humanity's common enemy. Faced with a deadly threat, even as adversaries, Taylor did not want to pursue them to the bitter end. He ordered the guards to open Terra Nova's gates so that the survivors could run inside to take shelter. As for Taylor, he would stay outside the fence to act as bait. Unexpectedly, the dinosaurs completely ignored him until Taylor fired several shots in succession. The smell of burning mixed with the sound of gunfire made the dinosaurs stop and turn around. Then, with a roar, it charged straight at Taylor. James took careful aim, and when the opportunity arose, he pulled Taylor right in front of the dinosaur's mouth, then immediately slipped into Terra Nova. Once they were safe, Taylor ordered the gates to be sealed tight. The soldiers on the fence used high-frequency sonar cannon rounds to disrupt the dinosaurs. Overwhelmed by the human's powerful firepower, the dinosaur ceased its attack. It stared intently at Taylor for a few seconds, then turned and walked away. The external threat had been eliminated. Next came the concern within Terra Nova. The Sixer thugs who had been allowed into Terra Nova suddenly got out of their vehicles, guns in hand. They and the soldiers inside Terra Nova stood with their guns pointed at each other, and the leader of the Sixer group in these 2 armored vehicles was none other than Mira. They opened the trunks at the back of the 2 armored vehicles, revealing that they were filled with iron ore. She wanted to use this iron ore to exchange for medicine and for her comrades who were being held captive by Terra Nova. Not wanting to start a war, Taylor agreed to the other side's demands. A night that threatened war faded away, and the danger was gone. The people living in Terra Nova resumed their peaceful daily routines. That day, Josh, who is also Elizabeth's son, met and got to know a girl named Sky. Her enthusiasm and kindness, along with her humorous way of speaking, attracted Josh. After learning that she was also a member of the Adventurous Youth Club, he found it hard to suppress the recklessness and curiosity of a teenager in his adolescence. Josh followed Sky to the base of the Adventurous Youth group and smoothly became a member of the group himself. Compared to Josh, who arrived here during the 10th wave of immigration, Sky had come a long time ago. She belonged to the 3rd group of immigrants. Through a long period of exploration and discovery, she became very familiar with the internal structure of Terra Nova and even found a secret passage that allowed her to freely enter and exit Terra Nova. Accompanying them, Josh arrived at a waterfall surrounded by dense trees. Without thinking much, he immediately jumps down with Sky. Following the stream, Josh saw characters carved into the rocks. Josh guessed that these characters dated back to before the first group of immigrants arrived here. Regarding this discovery, Sky told Josh that this area had been designated as a restricted zone by Village Chief Taylor, so anything they found here was not allowed to be reported to the authorities, otherwise it would violate Terra Nova's regulations. Josh didn't think much about it and immediately agreed. After that, they saw the brewing equipment that their companions had hidden in the forest. The group of adventurous teenagers had a very clear division of labor. Some people were in charge of finding ingredients for brewing. As a newcomer, Josh would go with Sky to pick fruit. Very quickly, the preparations for brewing were completed. Just as they were all excitedly getting ready to continue brewing, a strange sound suddenly came from afar. It turned out that the Sixer group had found their vehicle and took all of their supplies. However, just as the Sixer group was about to leave, they were attacked by a prehistoric creature. They didn't even have a chance to see what it looked like before being killed on the spot. When the group of young adventurers returned near the vehicle, they discovered that the battery in the armored car had vanished without a trace. Not far from there was another armored vehicle, which was most likely the Sixer group's car. As they approached the vehicle, they saw blood flowing from inside, and the sounds of wild beasts echoed from the nearby forest. Sensing imminent danger, the group relied on Sky's connections and managed to get inside the armored vehicle. Just as they closed the door, a dinosaur charged out from the forest. The vehicle shook violently as it was attacked. Everyone immediately sprang into action, reinforcing the armored vehicle's defenses from all sides. Earlier, Josh had noticed that the hatch on the roof of the armored vehicle was still open. Seeing the ferocious dinosaur lunging at them, fortunately, Sky managed to close the hatch just in time. The whole group was trapped inside the armored vehicle. The tense atmosphere was weighing on everyone's nerves. Finally, one girl couldn't take it anymore. Agitated, she grabbed a weapon and ran outside toward Terra. At that moment, back at the base, Taylor was also warned by the security team that an armored vehicle had suddenly gone missing and contact with it had been lost. Through the surveillance cameras, they discovered that a group of kids had stolen the vehicle. James saw that his own son was among them. With no other choice, the adults had to form a squad to clean up the mess left by those reckless kids who had no idea what they were getting into. First, they used the vehicle's signal to successfully determine where it had disappeared, then began searching the area on the ground. On the way, they encountered someone. It was the young woman who had separated from the group. She told Taylor that they had been attacked by dinosaurs. Based on the information they had, Taylor decided to keep moving forward. By now, night had fallen, and nighttime was the perfect hunting time for dinosaurs. The squad was attacked by a pack of dinosaurs. If they kept getting bogged down like this, it would only lead to their deaths. To break out of the encirclement, the teenagers armed themselves and prepared to fight the dinosaurs. But at that moment, one of the teenagers risked his life to tell everyone that, to the dinosaurs, their resistance meant nothing at all. At this point, Josh was already feeling regretful. He just wanted to return to Terra as his father had arranged, not to lose his life here with a girl he had just met. At the critical moment, the rescue team arrived. Relying on his exceptional marksmanship, James managed to save his son. After this life-and-death ordeal, it seemed that Josh had matured a great deal. The surviving youths returned to Terra, vowing never to venture out on their own again, while watching Josh's family embrace each other tightly. Perhaps Sky had realized just how reckless her actions had been. She took the initiative to apologize to Taylor, but when he asked if they had gone to the cliff by the waterfall, Sky lied and said they hadn't been there. Many people began to speculate about what the symbols carved on the rocks actually meant. Very quickly, this question was answered. Mira, the leader of the Sixers, followed the traces left by Josh's group to the area by the waterfall, an area Taylor had designated as off-limits, and found that stone wall. She also revealed the secret that Taylor had been hiding. These symbols were left by Taylor's son, and behind them lies an extremely greedy path. The core idea is to control the future by controlling the past. This is also the reason why Terra exists. It is also one of the reasons why Mira led the members of the 6th Pilgrimage to break away from the Terra base. Not long after, on a rainy night, the base's supply truck was attacked by prehistoric beasts on the road. Sounds like bird calls could also be heard outside the base. However, this strange phenomenon did not attract anyone's attention. The next day, when he saw his wife and her ex-husband laughing and talking happily together, James became jealous. But he still tried to suppress his feelings to go and greet Markham. When he learned that the supply truck had suddenly gone missing, Taylor, having lost contact with the vehicle, led a fully armed team to investigate the scene. Near the supply truck, they saw that the soldiers assigned to guard it were dead, and the exposed skin on each of them was covered with terrifying scratch marks. Based on the traces, they speculated that the group had been attacked by some unknown species of dinosaur. After bringing the bodies back to the base, Elizabeth conducted a thorough examination. However, the DNA found in the wounds did not match any known dinosaur species in the database. Perhaps it was a prehistoric creature that humans have yet to discover. The appearance of this mysterious creature was not preserved for long. By evening, James discovered that the attackers of the supply vehicle were a flock of small-sized pterosaurs. The next day, after tending to his wounds, James reported this to Tyler. As for these prehistoric creatures, the only thing the base could do was to strengthen security and ensure the safety and lives of the people living there. dealing with the small pterosaurs was assigned to the head of the research department, who was also Malcolm, Elizabeth's ex-husband. These flying dinosaurs did not stop their invasion just because it was daytime. Although the residents had fought back and repelled the recent attack, quite a few people were injured. Based on the remains of the pterosaurs left on the battlefield, Terra Nova scanned the surrounding environment and discovered that tens of thousands of flying dinosaurs were gathering in the forests outside Terra Nova and in the surrounding hills. This shocked everyone deeply. To verify whether the number of flying dinosaurs they detected was accurate, Terra Nova fired an ultrasonic cannon at the target. This attack awakened the flock of flying dinosaurs. They gathered into groups and continued to attack Terra Nova. Malcolm speculated that the reason such a large number of flying dinosaurs appeared could only be due to a few factors. First, a change in the weather. Second, being chased by natural predators. And third, they had come to lay eggs. Hearing this, Tyler recalled that during the early days of building Terra Nova, they had discovered countless eggshells underground. It was possible that Terra Nova had been built on the nesting grounds of these flying dinosaurs, and now they were returning here to lay their eggs. Terra Nova immediately activated its emergency response program. The external equipment was dismantled into smaller parts and taken away. Except for a few members of the combat force, no one was allowed to go outside. Using force to suppress them was one option. Another way was to use their intelligence. Elizabeth and Malcolm began preparing to develop a stimulating hormone to lure the flying dinosaurs elsewhere. However, the process of researching this hormone required a living specimen of the flying dinosaur. And the wave of attacks from the flying dinosaurs would arrive tomorrow. Tonight, they were forced to take action. Tyler led Malcolm as they prepared to act during the night. Malcolm taught Tyler how to distinguish the gender of the flying dinosaurs. But James was in no mood to continue the conversation and warned the other not to set his sights on his wife. This remark hit Malcolm right where it hurt, because he truly intended to rekindle his old flame with Elizabeth. The next morning, James brought back a flying dinosaur. While they were anxiously working on synthesizing the stimulating hormone, the flock of flying dinosaurs arrived and attacked Terra Nova, a dark mass that terrified everyone. Fortunately, the research process succeeded. Tyler, carrying the hopes of all of Terra Nova, placed the stimulating hormone in a vehicle and drove it far away. Under the influence of the stimulating hormone, the flock of flying dinosaurs followed the vehicle. On the third day, everyone stayed at the base, waiting for news from Jim and Tyler. The two of them did not let everyone down. Although they were injured, they managed to complete the task of placing the stimulating hormone dozens of kilometers away. When the next generation of flying dinosaurs matures, they will also consider that place their breeding ground. They will no longer pose a threat to human settlements. Having resolved the threat from the flying dinosaurs, new difficult problems continued to arise. Tyler received news that they had lost contact with the research facility, and it had already been 3 days since then. To find out the cause, he set out together with Elizabeth. They discovered that the power cables had been bitten through by wild animals, and everyone at the research base was trapped in the medical room. After careful examination, Elizabeth found that their bodily functions were all normal, but their brains had been damaged, resulting in fragmented memories. They had forgotten how they had arrived in the prehistoric era. Through the research station's computer data, Elizabeth discovered a video from Dr. Jonathan and learned that the fragmented memories were caused by an unidentified prehistoric virus. Now, anyone living in prehistoric times would be at risk of infection. After learning that his wife was trapped in the research station, James sought out Malcolm, and together they equipped themselves with gas masks and headed to the research station. However, unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the research station and was about to embrace his wife, he was shot. Elizabeth, meanwhile, warmly inquired after her ex-husband Malcolm. From this strange behavior, Malcolm deduced that Elizabeth's memory had been damaged. Her memories stopped at more than 10 years ago, back when the two of them were still married. To reassure Elizabeth, James showed her a previously recorded video, proving his identity and explaining the incident of the prehistoric virus invading the brain. After learning this crucial information, Elizabeth calmly focused on researching the virus. James delved deeper into the research station to investigate. Meanwhile, he encountered Tyler, who possessed extraordinary fighting skills but had lost his memory. Tyler believed he was still in the midst of a battle within future human society and even wanted to find his wife who had been taken away. After narrowly avoiding Tyler, James returned to the research station only to find Malcolm flirting with his wife again. Angry, he immediately took Malcolm to help clean up the soldiers' corpses. However, during this time, Malcolm was infected by the virus, lost his memory, and even believed that James was the murderer. To make matters worse, things went from bad to worse. Before James could explain, a dinosaur burst in. Seeing the dinosaur with his own eyes, Malcolm's worldview was completely shattered. James didn't have time to explain to him either, so he had no choice but to knock him out, hoping that once a vaccine was developed, everything would be resolved. Meanwhile, Elizabeth discovered the names of her children that she had written down. After James took the ring, she realized that she had lost her memory, and at the same time discovered that he had not lost his memory at all. He was different from everyone else. James, When James set out, he had the flu, and the flu virus could actually prevent the ancient virus from spreading. Through meticulous research, they successfully developed a vaccine to stop the ancient virus and began producing it at the base. After losing his memory, Tyler learned about his wife's death and wanted to end his own life, but fortunately, his assistant Washington intervened in time and saved him. Constantly facing danger, James's nerves were stretched taut like a string, so he didn't notice his son's hesitation. It turned out that during his time living at the base, he had developed feelings for Sky. However, he still couldn't forget that he had a girlfriend in the future. Perhaps understanding Josh's thoughts, Sky took him to see Boss Boylan. Boylan told Josh that he knew someone who could bring his girlfriends on the future world back to the prehistoric world, but it would come at a price. After hearing this, Josh immediately nodded in agreement. What he didn't expect was that this person turned out to be Mira, the leader of the 6th Migration Group, and Mira also valued Josh's identity as James's son. Meanwhile, Washington caught a little girl outside the base, and after examination, she was found to be free of any illness. Tyler recognized that the girl was the child of one of the 6th Migration Group members. The girl said she was just too hungry, so she went out to look for food, and she wanted to return to the future to live with her grandmother. To take care of her, the James family adopted the girl and learned that her name was Leah. After breakfast, Elizabeth took her daughter Maddie to the medical room for her first hands-on practice. However, the process of treating wounds was a bit bloody, and no matter how many times she tried to reassure herself, it didn't help. In the end, Maddie covered her mouth and ran outside. Meanwhile, Washington and the soldiers, while searching for Leah's backpack, were caught by Mira. She brought the hostages outside the base and demanded that Tyler release Leah. As for Leah, she no longer wanted to continue her wandering life and chose to stay at the base. With no other option, Mira had to release the hostages. After Leah was allowed to attend school, she snuck out again. After that, a theft occurred at the base. In Myra's room, the floor had been pried open, and it seemed that something had been taken. Washington and the others quickly found Leah. It turned out that the girl had snuck into the base to help Mira retrieve that box. Leah told Tyler that if she didn't do as Mira said, her younger brother would be given to the dinosaurs as food by Mira. After returning home, James discovered that Leah had left a note. Believing what the girl said was true, he decided to go to the area of the 6th wave of refugees to find out more. After escaping from the dinosaurs and the traps, James met Mira. She told him that she had lost her doctor, and the reason she was opposing Tyler was simply to survive. And why did she have Leah steal that box? Mira didn't say anything more. Instead, she brought up the truth about prehistoric times. The goal was not to start over. Tyler had been deceiving everyone all along. In the end, Mira told James not to stand on the opposing side of history, then let him go, and even allowed him to take Leah's younger brother with him. Back at the base, Tyler had no leads about the box and asked Mira what she had told James. Remembering what Mira had said, he still harbored some doubts, so he didn't tell the truth. Not long after James returned, a soldier patrolling the area around the base was attacked by a long-tailed dinosaur. When he was found, only the soldier's body remained. Based on the eggshells nearby, Malcolm speculated that these eggs had attracted predators. This soldier was just unlucky. Sometimes, being in a predator's hunting range leaves only claw marks inside, with no reasonable explanation. The base's internal team conducted an autopsy on the soldier and discovered the DNA of a long-tailed dinosaur. James believed that this was not an accident, but possibly even murder. Along with the prehistoric turkey blood found on the body, James became even more convinced that someone had locked a long-tailed dinosaur inside the base and then used turkey blood to lure it into attacking. They discovered that the dinosaur claw marks had been deliberately left inside the base. Tyler was extremely angry. He did not allow any acts of attempted murder to take place in his area of authority. James began his investigation. Through the accounts of his companions, they learned that the soldier was a good person, had no enemies, and had recently started dating a girlfriend. He even put her photo in his employee badge, but they did not find the badge among the soldier's belongings. At this moment, the system detected an anomaly. The soldier's employee badge was moving. They guessed that the dinosaur had swallowed the badge. To investigate further, they immediately set out to intercept and surround the long-tailed dinosaur. In the end, they managed to take it down and retrieve the employee badge from its stomach. Through identification, they discovered that the victim's girlfriend was Rebecca from his household. However, Rebecca had married a man named Minor a few years earlier. As soon as he met everyone, Minor admitted to committing the murder. In the end, he was exiled from the base. Afterwards, James suspected that Minor might be taking the blame for someone else. He secretly brought Minor to see Rebecca. Rebecca told James that the soldier had once lent money to someone at Bylon's casino. Following this clue, they went to Bylon. First, they pretended to arrest him, then the soldier guarding Bylon came to James and Tyler, saying that Bylon had escaped. When the three squads took action, Tyler pointed his gun at that soldier. It turned out he was the one who killed his creditor. This time, Tyler didn't hand him the gun but directly expelled him from the base. The murder case was resolved, but the base was about to face an even bigger problem. A meteorite pierced through the atmosphere and exploded near the base. Its fragments shot out, destroying the base's power generator and endangering patients undergoing treatment. Fortunately, the base's power system was quickly restored. The patient underwent a successful surgery. That night, Tyler fell for the enemy's diversion tactic. Myra's people found the box and took it away. In the end, a young man managed to be coded successfully. That person was none other than Tyler's son, Lucas. Mira demanded that Josh retrieve the medicine that could cure the illness. The medicine was a rare item kept in a safe. In order to meet his girlfriend, he stole his mother's card and managed to steal the medicine. He just didn't expect that a patient urgently needed this medicine, or they wouldn't survive even a day. With a guilty conscience, Josh confessed everything and revealed that Mira possessed technology that allowed her to communicate with people from the future. At night, Tyler found Lucas, wanting to talk to the boy. On the way, he also came across Kieran, who was injured. Tyler found some medicine for him and even saved him from a giant lizard. Unable to find his son, Tyler turned his attention to Bylon, suspecting that he was the traitor. But even after 3 days and nights of interrogation, Bylon, no longer in his right mind, still refused to admit he was the traitor. With no other options, Tyler had to hand Bylon over to James for questioning. Bylon, mentally unstable, mistook him for Tyler and said that he would reveal the secret buried beneath the migration tree to everyone. James went to the migration tree and unearthed the body buried beneath it. Elizabeth examined the remains. Based on the level of decomposition and the estimated time of death, she speculated that it occurred between the second and third migration waves. Even more strangely, the victim did not have a signal device on their body after passing through the space tunnel, meaning the victim did not go through the official tunnel. James went to see Bylon, who also admitted to having helped Tyler dispose of a body. This body was connected to Tyler's son, Lucas. James returned and was summoned by Tyler. It turned out Tyler had discovered that James and his wife were examining the corpse, but he simply warned them not to do it again. After that, James and his wife were temporarily safe and joined the Harvest Festival. They noticed that Joe, who was playing Commander Philbrick, was missing his left arm. Remembering the corpse that was buried without a left arm, the two confirmed the victim's identity. At that moment, Tyler came to them and arrested James for colluding with the enemy. James was arrested but did not have to face punishment. Tyler promised that as long as James stopped investigating, he would help clear his name. He refused Tyler's offer and asked why Philbrick was killed. Tyler told James that if he hadn't acted, he would have been the one to die. The purpose of building Terra Nova was to access resources that existed before the war, which also held the dirty secrets of those in power. Once the tunnel connecting both sides was built, all of Terra Nova's resources would be owned by the city itself. To protect his homeland, Tyler destroyed Lucas's laboratory. Later, after leaving, Lucas successfully researched and developed the space tunnel. Philbrick traveled through this tunnel to get here. For the greater good, Tyler had to kill Philbrick. After learning the truth, both sides reached a reconciliation. The next day, Tyler went near the rock to investigate and ended up running into Mira. She told Tyler that her daughter needed medicine, which was why she followed the orders of those managers. While she was explaining, Tyler managed to untie himself. As the two struggled, a dinosaur appeared. To escape from it, Tyler and Mira jumped down the waterfall. Their weapons were also lost. In order to survive, the two leaders worked together, relying on fire and arrows to make it through the night. Meanwhile, at the base, James discovered that someone was using a mirror to transmit information. After finding the source of the light, there was no one left, only a drop of blood falling into a container of solution. He immediately took the sample to the hospital, hoping Malcolm could help. After causing a bit of chaos in the lab, Malcolm managed to separate the blood, but they would have to wait 12 hours for the results. That night, a figure came to the infirmary and destroyed the blood sample. That person was Sky. She did this because her mother had the flu. Mira said she could cure her mother. If Sky wasn't a spy, they would stop providing medicine. Sky went to the 6th Wave immigrant base. Lucas assigned her a new mission. She had no other choice, so she took the data that needed to be calculated and sneaked into the eye of history to complete the mission. Once he obtained the experimental data, Lucas would succeed. Sky's identity as a spy was discovered, so Tyler decided to turn the situation to their advantage and told Sky about today's operation. After that, they set up an ambush near the fake location. However, they lay in ambush for half a day without spotting any enemies. James speculated that Sky might have deliberately avoided passing on crucial intelligence, which meant she was acting as a spy under duress. Meanwhile, Lucas told Sky not to return, saying that the village was destroyed because of Tyler. Sky made up her mind to tell Tyler about Lucas's plan. After learning the news, they approached the teleportation gate. However, they arrived a step too late. Lucas remotely took down the surrounding guards and then left openly. To stop Lucas's plan, Tyler prepared for battle, but unfortunately, their efforts couldn't withstand the ambitions of those people. After the 11th migration began, a man appeared with explosives strapped to his body. After the explosion, everything changed. James woke up 3 days after losing consciousness and discovered that the leaders were now Mira and Lucas. Mercenaries took over the entire village. Fortunately, a dinosaur bit through the cable at the portal entrance. Malcolm is currently repairing it. James went to find Malcolm. The two discussed and decided to delay the repair process to buy more time. While performing surgery, Elizabeth discovered a bullet containing information, and after James decoded it, they found a set of coordinates. So, while Lucas was busy outside, he sneaked into the vehicle and escaped once he got out. Before fleeing, he overheard Lucas planning to use a super bomb. After regrouping with Tyler, he shared this information with him. To protect prehistoric Earth, Tyler decided to stop his son's plan. Washington told him that he could disarm the bomb before it detonated, provided he could use the remote control. Fortunately, they managed to locate the explosives through the remote signal and disarm them before they went off. But this was not a victory. To prevent the mercenaries from entering the prehistoric world, James and Tyler worked together from inside and out to steal supplies from them. Lucas confirmed that James was the mole. To force him to talk, Lucas used an electric device, but James didn't say a word. Meanwhile, Lucas's sponsor was stung by a prehistoric insect. Elizabeth took advantage of the other's lack of knowledge, claiming that some parasites could infect the brain through a bite. She said that just now, it had injected 5 million parasite eggs into him, and only she could make the antidote. If he wanted to live, they would have to exchange James for the cure. Terrified, the boss rushed to the interrogation room, used Tyler's fake whereabouts to trick Lucas, and then released James to go home. It was only then that Elizabeth revealed she had deceived him. Earlier, she had only injected him with a sedative. Realizing he had been tricked, Lucas prepared to lock down the base. With Washington's guidance, James and Elizabeth successfully escaped. However, Washington no longer had a chance to run. After calming down, Tyler decided to destroy the teleportation gate, cutting off the enemy supply line. But if they did that, they would have to rely on just over 1,000 people to rebuild human civilization here. This task was assigned to James. Mira was told to drive a truckload of ancient minerals back to the base. Lucas happily brought Sky along with him. Not long after, Sky came up with a plan to assassinate Tyler. Lucas stopped the vehicle, and then Sky tricked him. In the end, Lucas was captured by Tyler's men. Sky used a device to copy the information from the vehicle and switched it to her own car. Meanwhile, the assistant explained to James how the supersonic bomb works. This bomb is powerful enough to destroy the teleportation gate. James brought along anesthetic and supersonic bullets, which he hid in the transport vehicle. After passing through the teleportation gate, he brought a gas mask into the future world. Once James's return was confirmed, Malcolm used a remote control to sabotage the teleportation gate. The time tunnel at both ends closed. Lucas figured out Tyler's plan and hurriedly freed himself from the restraints, running toward the teleportation gate. Halfway there, he ran into his father. Unable to resist, he tried to win his father's favor, hoping for forgiveness. Just as his father softened, Lucas stabbed Tyler from behind. Fortunately, Sky arrived just in time to send the unrepentant Lucas off to meet his mother. But after they stood up, they discovered that Lucas's body had mysteriously disappeared. Meanwhile, in front of the teleportation gate in the future world, the boss and the rulers were preparing to claim their assets. What awaited them was a dinosaur that had been injected with the antidote. Many of the bosses were killed by the dinosaur's claws. Meanwhile, James successfully installed the supersonic bomb. However, after activating it, he was blocked by the boss. The enemy was being talkative again. The dinosaur, annoyed by the chatter, appeared behind the boss and finished him off. The stench from these people's bodies made the dinosaur unable to swallow them. It spat them out. With no more enemies in his way, James ran toward the teleportation gate. After setting the generator to explode, the shockwave sent both James and the dinosaur back to the Cretaceous period. However, without the signal molecules from the teleportation gate, the destination was no longer fixed, and James was transported to a forest. Later, Elizabeth was able to find him by tracking the electromagnetic signal. As for the mercenaries guarding the village, after learning that the teleportation gate was damaged, they withdrew from the village. The village welcomed its owner back as before. More than 1,000 people would usher in a new era under Tyler's leadership. At that moment, a scout informed Tyler that the mercenaries had retreated to the wilderness, which reminded James of a wooden statue carved in the fourth quarter of Chaser. It was clear that this object came from the era of civilization, but why did it appear here? What secrets does prehistory still hold? That concludes the entire content of the film Terra. Do you think this movie is good? On a scale of 10, how would you rate this film? Please leave your answers in the comments below to let us know. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you next time.